What's up, YouTube? It's the 82 podcast. So, before I actually finish covering every player on the selected team, I wanted to actually review ESPN's actual 75 anniversary team list. Now, there's actually 76 players on the team because I guess there was a tiebreaker, so they had to put 76 instead of 75, which is, that's good. So I'm going to review the list. I'm going to go down from 76 down to 1 and kind of give my thoughts on each selection. So number 76, they ranked Bill Sharman. It's good seeing older players on the list. I know a lot of young people, they don't really care for the older players, but you can't have the new without the old. So I can see Sharman in the top 76. He was pretty much the Steph Curry of his day. Very elite shooter. Very efficient free throw shooter. 75, Dame Lillard. I'm not fond on this because I just don't think he's done much. It's no shot at him. I think you could put Tony Parker over him. I think you could put even Manu Ginobili. Maybe I'm just biased as a Spurs fan, but there's got to be a lot of other guys. Ben Wallace. Dave Bing, number 74. I didn't expect to see him, but that's all good. 73, Dave DeBusschere. I can see that. 72, Billy Cunningham. Sounds about right, his ranking. 71, Anthony Davis. This is kind of surprising for me to see him because he hasn't finished out his career. He does have the championship, but he's so injury prone. He hasn't won an MVP or Defensive Player of the Year. I feel like he had all the potential in the world to get it. It's just, I think injuries are holding him back. I wouldn't put him this high yet. 70, Dolph Shays. That sounds about right. He was a pretty efficient shooter for his day. 69, Carmelo. No, Carmelo should be higher. I think that's disrespectful. 68, Russ. Yeah, with all the hate that Russ gets, he's still a great player. He's still top 76 all time. This sounds about right in his ranking. 67, Rodman. Yeah, I'd put him around here. Some people, they want players that not only, they don't just look at accolades, they look at their overall skill. And he wasn't an offensively skilled guy, so that could be a blemish. But I think his defense cements him himself as a top 76. This sounds about right to me. Paul Arizin, yeah, I could see this. I think he should be after Rodman. Lenny Wilkins, it's good seeing him up there. One of the greatest point guards of the 60s and 70s. Great coach. Yeah, I can see that. Hal Greer, he's someone who definitely gets forgotten. He passed away a couple years ago. And he's unfortunately shadowed, like it says here, overshadowed by playing a large chunk of his career with Wilt. But if you look at after Wilt Chamberlain left, the Sixers were still a good team there. So I think he's the third greatest guard of the third greatest shooting guard of the 60s. I think Oscar is better than him. Jerry West is better than him. I'd say actually maybe the fourth best guard. Sam Jones. I think it goes Oscar, Jerry West, Sam Jones, Al Greer. 63, Robert Parrish. Yeah, that's a good pick. His longevity definitely helps his case. 62, no, there's no way Paul Pierce is above Melo. I know Melo's got the ring, but come on. Was there ever a time people thought Paul Pierce was a better overall player? Come on, that's ridiculous. 61, Dave Cowens. I like seeing him in the top 76. I don't know if I'd rank him this high. I know he did win an MVP, and he did have 2 champion. I guess he could. I guess it's a fair spot. Number 60, Sam Jones. He was kind of like a Kobe of his time. Very good scorer, and he was very clutch in the playoffs. I know that. And it's saying here even 61, 62 through 66, 67, he averaged 28 points per game in the playoffs. Yeah, I definitely like seeing him in here. 59, Nate Archibald. I wouldn't put Archibald over Sam Jones, but that is what it is. Elvin Hayes, good to see him. He was the original Iron Man. He played a long time, and he was never really hurt. Willis Reed, 57. I think he should be higher. 56, James Worthy. I wouldn't rank Worthy over Reed. That's just me, though. 55, Earl Monroe. I think a lot of people look at the Knicks, Earl Monroe, and they forget about how good he was on the Bullets. Yeah, but I like seeing him on this list. 54, Pete Maravich, rest in peace. He was one of the... If they had the three-point line back in his days, oh my God, he'd be unstoppable. He had such range. 53, Clyde Drexler. That seems a little low for Clyde. He was a lot of people forget this, but he was a great offensive rebounding guard and a great outside shooter, a great perimeter defender, and obviously he had his great vertical leap. He was known for his high-flying dunks. I'd like seeing him on this, but I would rank him a little higher. George Gervin, 52. The Iceman, Spurs legend. I like seeing him on this. 51, Reggie Miller. Hot take here. I've never really thought Reggie, and I know I'm gonna get a lot of hate for this. I've never really thought Reggie's as good as people say. I mean, I've watched all those games. I don't know. I wasn't as impressed. He was pretty clutch, however, and he did have a very long career. But come on, I wouldn't rank him above Melo or Drexler. How are you gonna rank him over Drexler? That's pretty ridiculous. Number 50, James Harden. No. Harden is one of the most overrated players of all time, and I'm not going to elaborate on it right now, otherwise I'll never be able to stop talking about him. I'll do a video on him. No. No, it's ridiculous to put him this high. 49, Nate Thurmond. That's good. 48, Wes Unseld. That seems a little high for Wes, but it is what it is. 47, Ray Allen. That's surprising to see him up here. I mean, I know he was at one point the record all-time three-pointers made champion, but I don't know if I'd rank him that high. But yeah, he's definitely top 76 all time. Jerry Lucas, good to see him on here. Sometimes people forget, like with Earl Monroe, how good he was before he played with the Knicks. Like when he played in the 60s with the Royals, he was a great rebounder. And he had like a superhuman memory. His nickname was Dr. Memory, which they're actually talking about here. He could read like a phone book, right? Like he could take a random page, read everything out loud, and just remember it. So that's why he was such a good rebounder, because he would know where the ball was going to go off of the rim because he has such a good memory. Very smart guy. I like seeing him up this high. Bob McAdoo, yeah, injury has definitely held him back. He was an MVP, and he did win championships with the Lakers, but who's as a role player. I'm okay with it. Bill Walton, I think that's a little high. I know he was projected to be probably one of the greatest players of all time. It's just he was hurt too much, man. Like, how are you gonna put him above Jerry Lucas or Thurman? It doesn't seem right to me to put him that high. Jason Kidd seems a little low for him, and he did have a great career, a very long career. He had those 2 finals runs with the Nets, and he did end up winning a championship, however, with the Mavs. Yeah, I like seeing this, but I don't know if he's should be lower than Gary Payton because they got Gary Payton 42. Uh, that's a good argument. Who is better, Jason Kidd or Gary Payton? I might have to do a video on that. But Gary Payton, one of the greatest one of the greatest defensive point guards of all time. He did end up winning a championship with the Heat. Number 41, Walt Frazier. I see they're just going 3 defensive point guards in a row. Yeah, I would rank Frazier above Gary Payton, Jason Kidd. Number 40, Patrick Ewing. No, I don't agree with that at all. That's way too low, especially because 39 is Kevin McHale. How are you going to put Kevin McHale above Patrick Ewing? 38, Rick Barry. Yeah, I can see it. He missed some years of his prime when he was, I don't remember the exact story. He went over to the ABA and he broke some kind of a contract agreement. And he ended up, I think he missed like a year or 2 of his prime. I'll have to look it up. But he was a great player. He did win a championship. 37, Steve Nash. That seems a little low for a 2-time MVP. 36, Dominique Wilkins. Yeah, it's good to see him in this because he got snubbed from the NBA 50 list. Number 35, Bob Pettit. That seems a little low. Pettit's definitely one of those players that could play in any era. Great outside shooter, great rebounder, great defender. To compare him to a modern player, I would say Kevin Love. And I don't mean Kevin Love with the Cavs. I mean Kevin Love with the Timberwolves. Getting like 15 rebounds a game. Although Pettit was a good defender, Love wasn't necessarily a good defender. I would say, I don't know. It's hard to put it in a box. I'd say he was Kevin Love with a little bit of Draymond Green's defensive tendencies. 34, Bob Cousy. I like seeing him this high. He's one of those dudes. I used to criticize him when I was younger, and I would read about past players because I'd look at his efficiency, and I didn't really understand that era. That's just the way it was. But I didn't realize at the time how innovative he was, and how flashy he was, and how instrumental he was in those earlier Celtics teams. So yeah, I like seeing him on this list. 33, Kawhi. I don't know if I'd rank him this high. But he is a 2-time Defensive Player of the Year. He is a 2-time champion. Okay, I can see it. 32, Scottie Pippen. Yeah. Probably the greatest sidekick ever. Or one of, if not the greatest. I would say Pippen, to me, he should be a little higher, but that's just me. 31, Allen Iverson. This is what I'm saying. I wouldn't rank Allen Iverson above Scottie Pippen. I just wouldn't. 30, Dwayne Wade. That seems a little low because peak Dwayne Wade was amazing. That 2006 playoff run he had. Go look it up, people. He wasn't a joke. 29, Chris Paul. It's good seeing him on this list. I mean, I knew he was going to make it, but I mean, this high. I do think he could potentially win a ring this year with the Suns, and that would definitely rank him higher. And unfortunately, he's been one of the unluckiest players of all time. He always gets hurt in the big moments, and it's cost him championships. But he just does not seem to be slowing down anytime soon, you know? People always talk about LeBron's longevity. Why don't they talk about Chris Paul? 28, George Mikan. I like seeing him here. The first true big man of the NBA and also the first superstar of the NBA. Isaiah Thomas seems a little low. He's definitely one of the greatest point guards of all time. I would rank him higher than this. John Havlicek. Um, yeah, I can see this. I think that's a little high for him. Like, I wouldn't put John Havlicek above Isaiah Thomas. I just wouldn't. So, no. I would definitely put John Havlicek maybe around 30. David Robinson, 25. David Robinson was one of the best players of the 90s, a very strong, athletic center. And he took the Spurs franchise right after Gervin was gone. And he made them contenders in the middle of the 90s. But he always kind of choked in the big moments until Duncan got there. And he scored 71 points in a game at one point. And yeah, I would put him around here. 24, John Stockton. Yeah, one of the greatest point guards of all time. He could do it all. 23, Karl Malone. That seems a little low, but then again, I think once we get into the top 20, we're going to see why, because there's going to be a lot of other great players. Charles Barkley. I've always said Barkley was better than Malone. 22. So I agree with this. 21, Kevin Garnett. Yeah, this is where it gets tough. I don't know if I'd rank Garnett above Malone or Barkley, or maybe. It's just your personal preference at this point, because they all were great power forwards. But I'm not mad at them for putting Garnett above them. 20, Elgin Baylor. That's a good pick for him. 19, Jerry West. I'm not mad at that. 18, Giannis. I've seen a lot of people who were mad about this pick, saying it's too early for Giannis, but look at his resume he's built up. He's already building a champion, a Hall of Fame resume. I think when it's all said and done, he could be a top 10 player. And I've made bold predictions, and I've been criticized for this. I do think he could even go down as being a top 5. So, 17, Dirk Nowitzki. Would I rank? I don't know if I'd rank Dirk above Giannis. I know I'm going to get a lot of hate for saying that, but yeah, I'm not mad if people put Dirk there. He had a longer career. His was over. His has been out there. He cemented his resume. Giannis is only 27, so okay, fine. 16, Steph Curry. That seems a little low, but I get it. He's like one of the most innovative players of all time. Greatest shooter of all time. 15, Moses Malone. Good seeing Moses in it. 14, Julius Erving. I'm okay with that. 13, Hakeem Olajuwon. 12, Kevin Durant. And I did a video about this. I don't agree with this at all. I'd put Hakeem above Kevin Durant. I'd move Kevin Durant to 13, and I'd put Hakeem at 12. 11, Shaquille O'Neal. That sounds about right. Now, for the top 10, this is where it's tough, because anytime you make a top 10 list, you're going to get a lot of hateful comments, because there's going to be a lot of people who won't agree. You're never going to find a definitive top 10. And I'm not going to lie to anyone. I never thought Kobe was top 10 when he was playing. When I was growing up. Maybe I was a biased Spurs fan. But now that I've gotten older and I went back and I've watched a lot of those games, studied it more, I think he built the resume to be there. I'm not mad at this at all. So, yeah. Number 9, Oscar. I think it's great seeing Oscar this high. Number 8, Tim Duncan. That sounds about right. Number 7, Larry Bird. Okay. Number 6, Bill Russell. Number 5, Wilt Chamberlain. Yeah, I like Wilt. I like Bill Russell better as a person. I like his story a lot. But I think Wilt was the overall better player. And Wilt could do everything, offensively and defensively. Russell couldn't necessarily do all the offensive load. But, okay, I'm not mad at this. Number 4, Magic Johnson. That's about right. Number 3, Kareem. Number 2, LeBron. Number 1, Jordan. Now, this is where it's tough because I don't ever get triggered if somebody has LeBron at number 1 or Jordan at number 1 or Kareem at number 1. Because I think those 3 have good cases to be considered the greatest player of all time. But some people are so biased towards their own number 1 pick that they just want to throw out whatever somebody else is saying. Like, for me personally, I would say Kareem as the greatest legacy of all time. I'm talking being able to do it offensively, defensively, longevity, the accolades. I'm not mad at Jordan at number 1, and I wouldn't have been mad at LeBron at number 1. It's just all personal preference. But for me, I'd put Kareem number 1, Jordan number 2, LeBron number 3. And the rest of the top 10 I'm not really mad at. So let me know what your thoughts are.